Alright, in this lecture I'm going to show you how to install Windows 10. The first thing we need to do is boot the computer to a disk or USB drive. If your installation media is on a disk, you need to power on the computer, insert the disk, and then reboot the computer. If you're using a USB drive, you can simply insert the USB drive and power on the computer. Once the computer begins to load, you need to watch for the on-screen text, anything about boot. So it might say press F2 to load boot BIOS menu, or press delete to open the boot menu. Just pay attention for anything that says boot, and you'll only have a couple seconds to do this, so if you miss it, then all you need to do is just restart the computer again and wait for the menu to reappear. Now, I don't recommend that you forcing the computer to shut off improperly by holding the power button or pulling out the power cable. That's not a good way. It's a good way to corrupt your Windows operating system. So if you see the Windows icon show up or the Windows logo, you've waited too long and you need to reboot. Let it start normally, and then log in and reboot the computer again. It gets a little frustrating if you miss it a couple times, but what you don't want to do is corrupt your file system, especially if you're planning to upgrade your operating system. Now, once you're brought to the boot menu, you'll need to either select your disk drive, which could be called your optical drive, or your hard disk drive where you have the installation media installed. So it might say USB drive, it might say the name. If you have a Westgate, it might say Westgate USB drive. You'll just need to go through the menus and pick the appropriate option. Now, one thing to keep in mind is that the command, I can't just tell you to press F8 or F2 because it's different depending on the make of the computer. So Dell has a different keyboard shortcut than HP does, and Lenovo, and it also can depend on the model of computer that you have. So you just need to watch your on-screen text, and then once you get it, select either your optical drive or your USB drive, whatever you're using to install Windows. Alright, so we're loading the Windows files now. We've booted to our disk media. And I'm just going to select English here for the language, and make sure that you get the keyboard or input method correct. If you're not using an American keyboard or US keyboard, it's important that you get this right. Otherwise, the keystrokes won't work right, especially the numbers and special characters and things like that. So I'm going to select Next, choose Install Now. And sorry, I can't make this widescreen because it's an installation. It doesn't support the widescreen. So at this point, if you have your product key, you can enter it now. If you're working in an environment where they're using a KMS or key management server, you can enter that key right now, and you can get that just off of Google. But of course, you have to have a key management server with an appropriate KMS key in order for this to work. So I'm just going to say I don't have a product key. And that's going to take us to the next screen where we select which operating system we want to install. Now, if you have a key or you think you're getting a key, so you have the key but you don't just have it with you, you need to select the appropriate version. So if your key's for Pro, you need to enter in that information. I'm gonna select Pro, and I'm gonna click Next. You wouldn't want to choose Home if you had a Pro key, and you wouldn't want to choose Pro if you had a Home key. So click Next. Now we're on the license terms page. We're just going to click Accept. You can read through this if you'd like. It's quite a bit of information here, so I'm not going to go through it, but just click Next when you're done. And here we can choose an upgrade or we can choose custom. Now the difference between these two, if you have Windows 7 installed, you can choose to upgrade your operating system. And what this does is it keeps all your files, your programs, desktop backgrounds, pictures that you might have, downloads. It keeps all those files and it upgrades your operating system. Now, I've never had an upgrade work successfully, or flawlessly I should say, and even Microsoft in the MCSA book recommends if you can at all, you should always go with a custom install or install fresh. If you can, back up your files, format the hard drive, and install a custom install, because the upgrade just always seems to have problems later on down the road. So I'm going to choose custom. And I'm going to select drive 0. Now, if you have data on this drive, you'll need to format it. But we can see here that I have 32 gigs of free space on the total size of the hard drive. And if you would like, you can also make a new partition by selecting New. A partition is just segmenting a single hard drive, so we could split it into 2 virtual drives, for example. So if you wanted to have, install the operating system on a 20 gig hard drive and then use 10 for, work files or whatever, you can do that if you'd like. But it's not a requirement, and it's just kind of preference. You might have a work requirement that requires you to partition off drives. We're not going to do that. I have no need to do that, so I'm just going to click Next. So now the long part starts. This will take probably about 20 minutes before it's done. I'm going to speed up this video so you don't have to watch the whole thing. The installation is going to start now, and you can expect it to take at least 20 minutes. So we'll check back in once this is done. All right, on this screen, we can choose either customize or we can use the express settings. I'm just going to go with express settings, although you can choose customize if you'd like. All right, so on this screen, we need to choose my work or my school owns it. Generally, if you're in a work office, you're gonna use my work. So if you're at home, obviously I own it. We're gonna go with work or school owns it. Click next. Now on this screen, we can join a local Active Directory domain. We're gonna go ahead and choose this setting. All right, so we need to create a local user account. So I'm just gonna type in the name Paul. And you can type in a password, but I'm not going to. I'm just going to click next. Okay, this is use Cortana. I don't generally use Cortana as it slows down the computer, but if you'd like, you can check use Cortana. I'm just going to say not now. All right, so it looks like we got Windows 10 installed. So that's it for this lecture. Great job going through this, and I will see you in the next one.